Winter, Bavaria, Germany, March 1922. A small farmhouse sits alone in the countryside. No nearby neighbors, no passing travelers. Just open fields, forest, and silence. 6 people live here. Within days, every one of them will be dead. But what investigators would soon discover would turn a brutal murder into something far more disturbing. Evidence suggested the killer may have stayed on the farm for days after the murders, feeding the animals, walking through the house, living quietly among the dead. This is the story of one of Europe's most chilling unsolved crimes. The mystery of the Hinterkaifeck Murders. The Hinterkaifeck farm stood alone in the Bavarian countryside, about 70 kilometers north of Munich, nearly a kilometer away from the nearest village. The Gruber family lived there. Andreas Gruber, the strict patriarch of the farm, his wife Cecilia, their widowed daughter Victoria Gabriel, and Victoria's 2 young children. Only days before the tragedy, the family hired a new maid to help around the house. Life here appeared quiet and ordinary, but strange events had already begun. Andreas Gruber told neighbors he had discovered footprints in the snow. They came from the forest, leading toward the farmhouse, but there were no footprints leaving. Soon after, he found a newspaper inside the house that no one in the family had purchased. Then a set of house keys disappeared. Even more unsettling, the previous maid had abruptly quit. She told neighbors she believed the farm was haunted. At the time, these warnings were dismissed, but in hindsight, they would become chilling clues. March 31st, 1922. This would be the last day the Gruber family was seen alive. Days passed. The family did not attend church. Mail began piling up, but smoke continued rising from the chimney, and the animals were still being fed. Neighbors began to worry. Finally, on April 4th, several villagers went to the farm to investigate. What they discovered inside the barn shocked the entire region. 4 members of the family were lying in the hay storage area. Each had suffered brutal blows to the head. The weapon was believed to be a mattock, a heavy farming tool similar to a pickaxe. The remaining victims were later discovered inside the farmhouse. Investigators soon realized something deeply disturbing. The victims may have been lured into the barn one by one, each arriving only to meet the same violent fate. Police quickly arrived at the farm, but the investigation only deepened the mystery. Evidence suggested the killer had not immediately left the property. Food had been eaten in the kitchen. The animals had been cared for, and neighbors later reported seeing smoke rising from the chimney in the days after the murders. Someone had remained inside the farmhouse, possibly living under the same roof as the victims. Investigators interviewed more than 100 suspects, but the farm's remote location meant there were almost no witnesses. Over the years, suspicion fell on several individuals. One of the most discussed suspects was Lawrence Schlittenbauer, a neighbor who once had a relationship with Victoria Gabriel. Some believed he may have been the father of her youngest child. Schlittenbauer was among the first people to enter the farm after the bodies were discovered. His behavior during the investigation raised suspicion among villagers, but no evidence ever proved his involvement. Other suspects included traveling criminals, former soldiers, and unknown drifters. Yet none of these leads resulted in an arrest. Over the decades, many theories have been proposed. One chilling possibility suggests the killer had secretly been living in the farmhouse before the murders. This could explain the mysterious footprints, the missing keys, and the strange newspaper found inside the house. Others believe the crime was driven by revenge or by someone who knew the family personally. But without modern forensic science, the truth remained hidden. More than a century later, the mystery of Hinterkaifeck remains unsolved. The farmhouse itself was eventually demolished, but the questions remain. Who left the footprints in the snow? Why did the killer remain on the farm after the murders? And how could such a brutal crime occur in total isolation, without anyone ever being caught? Some mysteries fade with time, but the story of Hinterkaifeck still lingers in the Bavarian countryside, a chilling reminder that sometimes the most disturbing crimes are the ones that are never solved.